that you're still watching Science Breakfast with me, Alan Hubbard, and a sign language interpreter. We've done a switch, and sign language interpreter right now is Tobias Omondi. And I have two guests that are joining me in studio right now, and we are going to be discussing matters inclusive education. And this morning, students have gotten or reported back to school, resumption of the normal school calendar after the disruption by COVID-19. But even as other students are reporting back to school, we need to understand who and how are students with disabilities, how are they catered for in the planning of government. We understand there is going to be a shift from grade 6 to grade 7. Are there proper systems that have been put in place for students and learners with disabilities to do that transition? But as well, extensively, how is the Ministry of Education prepared to make sure that it takes inclusive education to the next level? And generally, that is a conversation that we're going to be having. And if you can engage with us on our social media platforms at Science TV Kenya, at the Alan Hubbard, hashtag ZA, hashtag Science Breakfast, hashtag the Alan Hubbard. And at this moment, I would like to give the opportunity to my guests to introduce themselves. And I would start with you. Kindly introduce yourself and tell us where you are from.
Thank you very much. Science TV. My name is Eunice Kiranga. I have been a teacher for the last 7 years. I retired in November last year, and I thank God for that. I am from Maruroi Primary School. I have been teaching special unit class since 2012, and I come from Githurai area, Mwihoko. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be at Science TV. Thank you, Alan, for having us. My name is Sharon Dono. I work at Action Network for the Disabled, Andy. I at programs, and I basically promote inclusive education in primary schools. Yeah.
All right, and thank you very much for joining this conversation. And indeed, we're going to be having a fruitful conversation. And Mwalimu, I would like to start with you. And this ni kama ni kuchokoza. It is, and also you could bring in your perspective on this. Special needs education. Do we really need to call education for students with disabilities a special? What is so special about it?
Thank you. Special needs education, there was a policy that was implemented in 2009, but the policy was not well, catered for, because one of the things is that it lacked implementers, and it also lacked implementation guidelines, so the teachers were not able to follow it. And that has brought us to having another policy which was introduced in 2018, which is now supporting that special needs education should be renamed to education for learners with disabilities. What I feel about special needs education is that it's like a kind of education that is confined in a school setup. So all the learners with special needs must be in a school. But when you talk about education for learners with disabilities, I understand it is more wider. It is catering for a wider range. As opposed to SNE, which is confined in school, the persons with disabilities are not only learners. There are other persons with disabilities, and they should be catered for. So when we say it is at a higher rate or a higher age, it means that these people can receive education from the community. These people can receive whatever they need, their services from other people. And that is why you see, like now in our government, there is that provision of slotting the persons with disabilities to different, maybe like in parliament, they are represented there. when you go to the slots on assignments, you must have a representation of persons with disabilities. So when you talk about learners with disabilities as opposed to SNE, it is going to cover a wider range. That is how I understand. Yeah.
And Sharon, from a programming perspective, and Mwalimu here is talking about something very important. And this legislation or this bill was initiated in 2018. Right now we are in 2023, but we are still calling education for people with disabilities, special needs education. From a programming perspective, where is the gap?
I think I want to agree more with what Madam Eunice has said.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think the term, it's high time we did away with the special, because there is nothing so special about us when it comes to education. And us, I mean persons with disabilities, because I am also a person with disabilities. So when it comes to education, I am a learner first before my disability. Yeah, so and learning is for all according to the policies that are there. And in Kenya, we have so many beautiful policies that promote inclusion. But what Eunice is saying is that we lack implementation frameworks to make sure that that happens. So, and even changing the special need education to learners with disabilities, because now the word special has been used to like highlight our challenges, our disabilities. Even the way that word is used, even in primary schools, because we operate so much in public primary school. So when you're trying to promote inclusion or integration of children with and those without disabilities, so when a child without disability sees a child with a disability, that is the term that is being used. Huyu ni wa special. Ama huyu ni special. Unaona? So it is used to like just highlight our disabilities more than embracing the diversity.
Interesting there.
To add on to that, sir.
Yes.
Even some of the teachers, they tag us, the teachers for special education. Ni wale walimu wa special. Like they see as if you do not know anything, and some go to an extent that hawa walimu wanakaa kama wale watoto wao. So it's a it's a challenge. It is so discriminating, but as time goes on, as the government is embracing those persons with disability so much in their programs, now it's like people are coming closer and closer. Again, these children are in the regular classes. And when some of these children are there, the teacher who is there, who has not done education or education in special needs, does not know how to handle that child. So it's like they are now coming to realize that these teachers are very important. Like a teacher would come and ask, what should I do to a child who is behaving this and this? And so at long last, if the school is supporting the special needs education, at long last you become a helper, and they will now come to appreciate the work that you are doing. Otherwise, as Madam Sharon has said, that special needs education, it really dwells much on that person, the disability that you have. But when I want to see Sharon, I will not see Sharon as somebody with a disability. I will see her as somebody who is capable. Yeah.
Very interesting what you're saying. And I want to escalate this conversation a little bit further. And the school calendar has opened. And today, many students have gotten back to school. But then what is in contention is how are students with disabilities going back to school? Have even the parents themselves identified the student schools that they can take their students, their children to be able to get education? I want my producer to play some sound bites in terms of what parents, the challenges that they are finding in terms of getting themselves ready to take back their students to their children to school, but as well we are going to expound the whole conversation and see how are these challenges faced by parents with students with disabilities, and as well how are students taken, or how are students catered for in the learning settings that they have. We watch this and we'll be back shortly.
That's okay.
The current economic situation has gone so high. The kind of life we live is too much. It's very expensive. Like now we are shopping for the textbooks. Like me, I'm shopping for Form 1, joining Form 1 now.
But today we have opened the school. The school was overgrown after a 2-month recess. And through the initiative of the Board of Management, the alumni, teachers and parents, they have decided to clear the school in order to make it conducive.
Once in a clean environment, they appreciate themselves, they have self-esteem, and also that improves their performance in this school.
As they go to Form 1 on Monday, the Form 2s will take responsibility of them, they will coach and mentor them. As the Form 4s goes to come to the bank on Monday, we will see those who came last year take care of them. As they proceed to university, the university scholars will take care of them.
For sure, we are really struggling. It has been a very difficult year, 2022. High prices of food and everything. Basically, all the commodities, the prices have been very high. The school fees is also not very good. It's quite high, and the requirements, especially to join Form 1, quite high. So it's tough for parents. It's the government to see how maybe they can support the common one.
Tumerealize hata desk za wanafunzi za watoto wawili sasa wanakaa wanne na bado wanaendelea kuja, lakini tunajiandaa, tutaona vile tunaweza kuaccommodate watoto wote kwa sababu hii ni shule ya umma.
What we are doing is now we are trying to construct new dormitories, of course, with the limited resources and the laboratories. And in fact, we feel so squeezed. We have a lot of problem because the men have no time for their sons. They have no time for their sons. They don't come for academic clinics. They said their spouses. Most of the men will not come for the AGMs. Most of the men will not come when there are discipline cases.
We are here for some few reasons. We want to remind our kids as they go back to school on the importance of maintaining discipline, because recently we've had cases of strikes. Number two, we want to remind them on the need to take care of themselves to avoid teenage pregnancies.
Sharon and Mwalimu Eunice, as you've heard some of the views that have been shared by the parents, possibly you could say that these parents do not have a child with a disability, but you have heard the challenges that they are undergoing. Could you clearly paint a picture for us in the perspective of a student with a disability who is reporting back to school today, or they reported back to school yesterday, or they will be joining Form 1 in a week's time? How does that picture look like for them?
It's a great challenge.
Yes.
As much as they are talking about the economy and no other challenges, parents with the children with the disabilities, they are somehow disabled in quotes.
Yes.
The parents, they are also disabled. Some of these parents are ignorant.
Yes.
They do not know how to handle these kids, and they are their own children. And this is why I went back to school, because I wanted to understand more about what are the causes of these disabilities. Because I'm a mother of one, Nicholas, with mild mental retardation.
Yes.
And it's like a multiple problem, because he had a condition we call spina bifida. And it was paralyzing his lower limbs. that he did not work for 3.5 years. So this was disturbing me, so I had to go back and so that I can get the information in order to help other parents who are suffering the same. And that is what I have been doing. When they come to school, the first thing I do is to guide and counsel them. Then I would say that these parents is like, they do not know where to go. On Sunday, I was handling a case of a child who has a hearing impairment disability. The child has been taken through normal school, and the child does not have speech. He went through up to standard 8. He ticked the answers and got 132 marks. Now the parent does not know. Now from here, where do I take the child? So it is not only the problem of those who are now transiting to grade 7, but it is a general problem. It cuts across the board. So what I would say is that 1, the parents are ignorant. 2, teachers do not want to guide, or they don't know. They don't want to guide. So whenever, when the parent came and was asking me, now what do? I told her, we have 2 challenges here. 1, this child does not have speech. 2, this child does not know sign language. So which school are you going to take the child? So I was like recommending, why don't we now take this child back, maybe where he can be taught sign language. But the child now is 16 years. So it is very hard to train that boy. 2, I told her that it could be also wise if we took this child for like a vocational training institute where he can get the skills now. And we go further and talk to the teacher that this learner is like this. So maybe the teachers in that vocational training college do not know the sign language, but they will have a mechanism of seeing that this child achieves something. So as much as these parents are complaining with the normal, in quotes, children, ours who have special learners, we are more now shocked. Another thing is that there is scarcity of institutions where these learners could go. Like now the HI institution is at Kasarani. And maybe a learner is coming all the way from Marurui. So you see, it's not possible for that learner to commute, and the fact that the learner has got a disability. So it calls also for parents to be more committed, because these parents is like, sometimes they hide these children. They do not want to bring them out. So still, it comes back to the community. As a community, especially those ones who have got the knowledge of persons living with disabilities, should be more committed to fish them out and bring them to the light. So what I want to say is that the learning institutions are very scarce. The second thing is that there is the shortage of staffing. For example, the school from which I came, right now they have not received a teacher to replace me. And I retired on 4th, but I had to stay there until December around the 23rd, conducting the KILEA exam, which is a NEC exam. So I had to give myself so that I could monitor these children, and I thank God that I was able to conduct the exam. So you can see there is shortage of staffing. So that again goes back to the TSC. They have the mandate to deploy and do staffing to the teachers, but it is not happening as it should be happening. Another problem is that the infrastructure is also a problem. We can hear from the social media from all over that we do not have enough classrooms. So you ask yourself, when shall they construct a classroom and the schools have opened so that the learners can now come? You have just heard a parent saying, and we saw it yesterday in the TV, that they were sitting 2 in a desk, but now they are going to sit 4 of them. because the children, the number is too overwhelming. So when they are sitting in fours, you don't expect that child to be free to write. So they will be squeezed, they will be very fatigued before they go home. So, and the teacher cannot even control that. It is going to be too large. So most of the time, you would see the teacher just shouting instead of delivering. Keep quiet, keep quiet. And now, when you come to learners with special needs, who should be having a smaller number in a class, you'll find it is very difficult. Again, when it shall be to the inclusive learning now, it becomes more tough because the teacher is dealing with this, the teacher is dealing with this, so it becomes chaotic. So they might not deliver the way they ought to. So it's going to be a challenge. Again, there is the financial constraint because the CBC requires a lot of finances, resources because of the buying of the teaching, learning materials, because the children, we are embarking on competencies. So there is no way you can deliver a certain competence if the child does not see and do what you are doing. And because CBC is embarking much on competencies, I think it's the high time that the government funds education with much more money. So that's what I have to say.
And the submissions that you put forth are very interesting, and this is where I would like to call you in, Sharon. In the work that you've been doing, what deficits have you been realizing, even as you're weighing in on what some of the parents have shared?
Yeah.
And also you could tell us a little bit about your experience going through the education system.
Yeah, we've been within the education sector for quite some time now, promoting inclusion for children with disabilities, and I can tell you, Alan, it hasn't been easy. Yeah, because now this is where we came in, where when children with disabilities were left at home to wait to be registered in special schools. Yeah, so trying to push, or maybe trying to convince a teacher in a regular school that this child, you can just give this child a chance here to be able to learn, and also maybe also learn from them what their potentials and what other things they can do. It's easier. So we started when we were still in the 844 system, and we thank God, because now that was the biggest barrier in promoting inclusion in schools. So it came in the CBC, and we were like, yeah, this is a big win for the disability sector, because now we stopped looking at the mean scores in schools. Yeah, so accommodating all children to see how best, or maybe what they can offer. So now disability comes with an extra cost. Yeah. That's what I keep reminding the teachers. Yeah, it comes with an extra cost, so it is not easy. So you have to be human first, to put a human face in you first before you embrace it, because if you focus on the challenges, then you will lock them out forever. Yeah, and it has not been a walk in the park, but we thank God, because right now we can talk of head teachers who have fully embraced inclusion despite the challenges, despite the fact that nothing much has been done to accommodate them, but they are trying, because it's a step-by-step process. Yeah, we are talking of a school maybe around Dagoretti. When we started, we almost came to a point where we said, no, now we've been training your teachers, we've been in partnership, but when it comes to inclusion, you always say no. So we don't see the point of this partnership. So what we do, we will just withdraw our support from this school. Yeah. So and maybe that was a turning point for them, and then they had a really serious time to think out, and they said, okay, Sharon, I promise you that head teacher, he said, Sharon, I promise you that next time when we are doing enrollment, I'll make sure I take in one child, two children. And right now, as we speak, we have that he has 16 children with disabilities in the institution. So inclusion is very possible, and it can work. So coming back to now the economic factor, we say that disability comes with an extra cost. So it's already so hard for everyone, not to talk of caregivers of children with disabilities who now have to maybe spend some extra coins to make sure that this child is enabled to achieve their best. Yeah, in terms of the assistive devices, in terms of what they need on a daily basis to make their life comfortable. Yeah, talking of that, the transitioning, the transitioning now to grade 7. Yeah, so we've had so many kids with disabilities also participating in the examination, and here we are in a situation whereby it's a scramble for the spaces for the junior secondary. So where do we take these children with disabilities? Teacher Eunice here has talked about staffing. Do we have enough teachers to handle our children with disabilities in those schools, in those classes? I think this is the high time that as they continuously construct new classrooms to accommodate all these children who are transitioning, to make sure that there is enough room to accommodate our children with disabilities in terms of making the environment accessible, and also making sure that enough teachers who are at least are able to handle children with disabilities in their classrooms, at least who can give them an extra hand to make sure that they are at par with these other children with disabilities. Because now if we say that all children with disabilities who sat for the examination has to join the available special schools available, then that means our children will not be transitioning. There are so many who will be left at home. Yeah.
And to add on to that, there is also another challenge that learners with disabilities have been embraced by the ministry in some parts or in some aspects. That a learner with a disability, when they are registering for the exam, there should be the NEC should be notified that learner A has got maybe visual impairment. Learner B is like this and like that. So that when the national exam is being prepared, that learner is going to be factored in. Because one time I was a supervisor in a certain school, and there was a visually impaired learner. And the learner I had to give 10 minutes extra in a certain subject. I had to give 30 minutes extra in another subject, like that. But what happens is that I do not know whether it is the NEC who should highlight the stakeholders that we do this and this. But again, it all starts very far because it starts with the assessment. Before that learner is now accepted as a learner with special needs, the assessment record must be there to show that surely this learner is not taking advantage, but it is the thing that is there. So I do not know who should come up with that, whether it should be a recommendation to the NEC to highlight and to enlighten the teachers and to enlighten all the stakeholders about conducting assessment for their children, so that it can go on progressively until the learner now sits for an exam. I think that is a very great deficit. Yeah.
And then this also will be very important student is graded. Because I was doing research the other day and I got to learn that, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that the pass mark for a deaf student is around 160, 170. Yeah, and if they attain that, then they have been able to pass the particular exam that they were sitting for. Now I want us to take a short break. When we come back from this break, there is something that Mwalimu Eunice you spoke about, schools. How are parents who are looking for schools to take learners with disabilities, how are they finding this information? And Madam Sharon, from the perspective of Andy, what are you doing in the inclusive education program that you're doing? What are you doing to make available this information? Because when I was doing the research, even as I came up with the concept to do this particular show, I could not find credible information about schools that would take in students with disabilities. Based on what Madam Eunice you shared in terms of availability of schools for students to be taken for education, students with disabilities, that information is not really available and it's not really accessible. What is it that the schools do not exist, or is it that the schools are not willing to put out the information so that it can take in new learners? Where is the disparity? And I say this because you've had the students who are transitioning from primary school, they are going to high school. There are students who are coming from high school, they are going into university or colleges or even technical institutions, as you had mentioned earlier, Mwalimu. Where is the disparity, and what if a parent is looking for an institution that they can take their child? Where do they start? Are there any support systems, as you rightly put it? Some parents sometimes, if they have a child who has a disability, them themselves also, they might be disabled to a particular extent for them being able to take care of that particular child.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is that there is a disconnect somewhere. In that, like now, the standard 8 students or learners are going to do selection for the secondary schools that they are going to join. So I think what should be done is that there should be a list of all schools for learners with special needs or with disabilities, a separate list, so that if a learner is in that class and is having special needs, you can see clearly from the list. But now you'll see that it is all schools listed, so the child has to choose from there, to select a school from there. And that is why the parent I was referring to earlier, when she didn't really know, she was telling me, I have brought the child to you now. I have not been his teacher, but I have to find ways of helping that child. So I think the ministry, they should have a clear cut-off. These are the schools for learners with disabilities. Again, the parents should also be advised and should be educated on these schools, because we find it that when the children have now selected the schools, even in regular school, you will see a boy selecting a girls' school and vice versa. So they are given the list, go with it at home, discuss it with your parent. But even when the parent is given, they do not have the information about these schools. So it is the high time that the schools and the stakeholders concerned take the initiative to educate all the stakeholders. They educate the learners and they educate the parents, for that matter. And again, that information, you can get the information from Google. Yes. We have been talking about the world being a global village. Yes. That means you can get any information from the Google from any corner. The other part that you can get this information from is like the headquarters for the Ministry of Education at Jogo. So you can go there and get the information. But what about that parent who is so far at Mombasa? Will not come to Jogo. But there are relevant offices for the ministry at the coast, so they should liaise with those offices. The information is also available with the EACS, that is Education Assessment Resource Centers. So parents can go there and inquire about where they can get the institutions for learners with the disabilities. There is also the KISE, which is just in our sub-county, but that one is only an advantage to the people who are around. What about those ones who are far? They can visit the sub-county education offices, and there they would find we call them the curriculum support officers who can guide and direct them. They can also get somebody like the director, the director there in the sub-county. They can also inquire the message or the message for special learning institutions from the staff whom we call the CSOs for special, because they are available. Yeah, the curriculum staff officers for special. So all these are places where you can get. They can also go to schools and they inquire whether a school has got a unit. Or like now the Kasarani, most people do not know about that school. That is, it just brings us back to that. People are not informed. So I think it's the high time all the stakeholders take the initiative to highlight that information. And again, it also comes back to us as persons with disabilities. We should be lobbying for this information, not only now doing a show and sitting here and saying the show is over. We should be lobbying for that to happen. Yeah.
Right. And Madam Sharon, I like the idea that Mwalimu has shared. Go onto the internet and find that information. But that information is not credible, and it does not give a clear-cut picture of this is the institution, this is what it offers, and this is how you can get in contact with us. From an organizational point of view and from a program point of view around inclusive education, what do you think needs to be done in that particular sector?
Yeah, it's a gap. I want to agree with Eunice, and it's a gap that needs to be addressed, because I believe I like what she said, making the world a global village. Yeah, so whereby a parent does not really need to move from point A to point B looking for information about school, because I don't believe there's any school that operates without the government knowledge, because they have a database of all the schools that operates here in Kenya. So I think it's something that they should now like start working on, like put all this information together, maybe have a list of all the schools that are available, so that a caregiver from when the child is sitting for an exam, then the caregiver is already prepared on the next step for this child. So they already know which school they would want the children to go to. They have a background information check, so that even if they take their kids there, at least they are confident about what they've learned from the internet. It's something that is possible and doable. Embracing technology. So it's something that needs to be addressed.
And Mwalimu, with 37 years of experience, you would agree with me that we cannot exhaust a whole conversation around education in a single sitting. But even as we are winding up, what do you tell specifically our parents who have learners with disabilities as they are still finding their foot? I have a student, they're coming from grade 6, they're going to grade 7. I have a student who's transitioning from grade 8, they're going to secondary school, and all the way to the cadres of education. What do you tell them this morning?
I would tell them to take heart.
Yes.
And desire to know
more information about their learners in terms of education. And they should not shy away from releasing their children, because you could say, like, now a child has been admitted in a certain school, but the parent just wants to keep the child in his comfort. Also, they do not. One of the parents told me in my school that huyu mtoto wangu ni kama kibeti. Kaniambia, you see how, unaona vile unakaa na kibeti chako? Huyu mtoto wangu ni kama kibeti kwangu. By then I was looking for somebody who could help him or help the boy to have he has a contraction on the arm. So I was looking for a well-wisher to do that. And when I'm telling the parent that we are going to Kejabe to look for services, the parent tells me the child is like Kibeti. He's in my phone. He did not have a wheelchair, a good wheelchair. So I also used my wall groups to request for somebody to assist us. And I'm happy that Optiven gave us a wheelchair last week. So you see, that is not a parent who is ready now to release that child. Even if the child was performing well, she cannot release the child. So the first thing that I would say is that we who understand about special needs, we should enlighten these parents. Because I said they are somehow special in quotes, and they are suffering a lot. So we have a responsibility. So what I would urge the parents is that let this child live his own life. Because you as a parent, you will not live with that child forever. So prepare the child for self-reliance in the future. And seek the information that you are not clear about from those who understand. The teachers are there. The persons with the disabilities working for different organizations are there. For example, Madam Sharon has really helped us in school because she is interacting very well with the administration of the school, with the teachers who are handling special needs education. And she introduced us to doing community-based activities. So they should seek information. That is what I would say. Yeah.
Caregiver of a child with disabilities. That child that you hold like a kibeti, as Madam Eunice would call. Yeah, by the way, it's something that we've seen with so many caregivers that they do not want to release their kids. But we've used a model that we use a role model to come and say and talk and clearly show the parents that now if you keep holding this child here, then prepare to hold them forever, because after you leave, no one will hold them as dear as you're holding them. So that child will suffer forever. But if you learn to release them, let them get hurt in the process, and also learn to live with others.
They need to be roughed up.
Yes. Kabisa. So that now they know and they get prepared of how the world is out there. So if you're not there, then they'll be able to man up or woman up for the world. So, and that is the beauty of letting them go. Yeah, so, and also for the government, I think it's high time we really need to mean inclusive education as it is in the policies and all the policy frameworks and the laws, yeah? So we be meaningful to what we say. Yeah.
And thank you very much for making the time for coming for the show. Madam Eunice, you are a very great resource. People who might need to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Okay. I have a phone number.
Yes.
My phone number is 0721 402 199.
Yes.
0721 402 199.
Yeah.
I'm very ready to be used.
Yes.
I'm not really exhausted.
Yes.
I hope you can. I hope you can see.
Yes.
Most of the time when I say I'm retired, the people are startled.
Yes.
But I thank God that He has given me the energy, and I really feel that I should work for persons with disabilities.
Yes.
I said I'm a parent for one who had a disability.
Yeah.
But I thank God that he can now walk and do all what is good for him.
Yes.
So I thank God for that.
Right. And Madam Sharon, in terms of organizational perspective, how can people get in touch with the Inclusive Education Program at Andy?
So you can to us through our phone number, which is 0715 613 602, and also on our Facebook, which is Action Network for the Disabled. Our Twitter pages, our Twitter handle is Action Network. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for making the time, and because we cannot exhaust this conversation in a single sitting, I hope that we'll make time on another day to come and still talk about matters education for students or learners with disabilities.